Right.
Okay, put on.
Yeah. Now, ready? So I keep shutting my hair.
Yeah, talk.
My father's place when he lived there was Glen Epping Station. But I do remember while we're talking about Tubia that there was a certain lady in Durham-Bandy, a really nice lady, and she used to go up to visit her relations at Tubia on the train. And while they were up there, they used to play cards a lot, you know, sort of between the families and that. And anyway, she stayed up there and she spent all her money. So she didn't have the money to come home on the train. So she got the railway master to put her on in the carriage COD written on her, cash on delivery. That's like you got parcels in the old days. And she came home with COD on her, and when the taxi driver came to the train, he released her from the railway master and she got home. So that was really good, wasn't it? And then also there was the old fellow that they used to call Death Adder Joe, and he used to wear no boots, and he used to stamp on those death adders with no boots on, and he was never known to get hurt. Like he was fighting against death every time he done it, but he used to do that all the time while he was up there at Tubia. And over at Mungandai they had death adders, and also they had death adders over around Surat, and they weren't very good because snakes will get out of your way, but death adders won't. They'll sort of stay there and turn into sort of horseshoe shape, and you can step on them and they just go plonk, and they got you. But I remember the story of this young fella that was droving with a drover, and he went ahead like to get ready for the night. He'd go to the next watering point, and while he was there he would break up all the leaves with his hand, and he used to start a fire going and then put on big log of wood, and then he'd be right. But he went there, the poor young fella, and he raked the leaves up, and there was death adders in him, and it bit him. And he got the gun and he shot his finger off, thinking that was the right procedure to stop it, but then he bled to death before the drover got there to rescue him, so he died. So that wasn't too good either, was it? The death adders are terrible things. Some place they used to have little fences around the back of the house and all around so that the death adders couldn't get in, like little wire fences, low fences, so they couldn't come through to get into the house yard. And that's something that they had for years and years, but I don't know whether they still do it. But I should imagine there's still death adders out there, because what would kill them? Now, do you know what else I shall talk about, Donnie? Oh, well, then there was another a lady that used to live in Durham-Bandy, which used to take life and limb in her hands too. And she used to walk with her daughter all the way down to Bingra once a year to see her family. And she'd take off and she'd camp under the trees as she went at night. And sometimes the lorry drivers that had trucks and carting sheep and cattle too, that walked up, they used to pick her up and give her a lift along to the next place where she could get off and go across to Bingra. But she'd walk all that way down, then all the way back with the daughter about 16, and they used to do it once a year to see the people in Bingra, her relations, the poor old lady. But I never forgotten her. She come over one day and she told me that one of the daughters was wild with her because she wouldn't let her cut her hair, like by putting a basin on her head and cutting round it like they used to do in the old days. And so she got this coarse salt and she rubbed it all in her mother's eyes. And when her mother come over to me, she had coarse salt eyes, you know, like all salt. Oh, that must have been shocking. And so I said to her, well, I'll take you up to the hospital. And she said, no, Dulcie will go to jail if I do that. And I said, well, what say I wash them out with this tap with a bit of a, what's her name, an eye drop, I think, and wash some of it out and get it a bit better, and then we'll go up to the ambulance station. But finally we did get to the doctor, but she had terrible eyes. They were like red, coarse salt. I don't know how she got over it, but she did. She made it. So that was something about that poor old lady. And she used to be a funny old lady. She used to go to the pictures at night, and she used to go with a flimsy dress on because she said she'd like to see the pictures, but she didn't have the warm clothing. So my husband ordered some clothes from the St Vincent de Paul in Toowoomba, and they couldn't get anything to fit her, so they got some clothes from the army, trousers and grey overcoat and different things like that, and they gave them to her, and she used to walk off the pictures at night happy as could be in these army clothes that belonged to men. Well, it just shows you what some people will do, doesn't it? So that was her, poor old soul. And then in the town also there was this old woman, Aggie, and she used to always come around for tea every night at our place. Never missed. She used to come at 4 o'clock and she used to say, "Oh, I'll have tea with you, Nell, because you're lonely and you won't have anybody to have tea with." But she also knew I had a husband and children, that we'd have tea afterwards. But she always came and had a tea with me every afternoon at 4. Never missed out. Well, so there were some strange people about in those days, some kind, loving people, but very odd in their ways. But we wouldn't miss them for any, we wouldn't do without them for anything, because they were really, really kind people.
Mrs. Flanagan?
And then there was Mrs. Flanagan, yes, old Mrs. Flanagan, and she had this husband. He was in the hospital, very sick with TB, and she used to be very old. I think she might have been 80 odd, because I'm 86, and so I know what she felt like. But she used to go up to the hospital to see her husband every day, and she reckoned that he was flirting with the nurses. So she used to take a stick up to belting with her. And she'd come to my place, and we had those sort of hop windows that you push up, the glass ones. And she used to come, and the kids would all get inside and pull the windows down. And then she'd open one, she'd push it up and get through, climb through, and she'd sit up and have something to eat and something to drink, and she'd tell me about what she was going to do to these nurses. So that was her, the poor old thing. So we had her too. And then I'm just trying to think who else was there. It was then there was the old Mrs. Hickey. She was the one that I remember most of all in my life when I was a child. She had a shop, old Mrs. Hickey, and she used to she used to have this shop, and she used to have bird's wire across instead of glass. And she was a very straight-laced woman, had a wooden leg, and she used to sell everything, just about. Like, she went away once, and she got this old fella to come and look after a shop, and he didn't write down who he sent a bag of sugar to out of town. And when she came back, she went and sent a bill out to everyone that got a bag of sugar, and she got paid for them all over again. Like, none of them didn't say they got a bag of sugar, so she got paid for the lot. So that worked well with her. But she used to sell us bullseyes, and when we'd been to church, on Sundays to Sunday school, we used to have 1 penny each for the plate, 1 penny from Mrs. Hickey. So when we were coming back, we'd put the penny on the counter at Mrs. Hickey's and say, "A bullseye, please, Mrs. Hickey." And she used to say, "Right over, girls," and give us a lolly. And off we go. But this day, this awful man was swearing and playing up outside, and came into the shop, and Mrs. Hickey was horrified. So she said to us, and there was a man in the shop as well, and she said to us, "Oh, look," she said to this man that came in, "your office door's open." And us girls didn't know what she was talking about, but she said your office door was open. She meant he had fly buttons all undone. And she said, and he said, "Oh, take a good look, old girl. Is he seated or standing?" And we didn't know, and we laughed. Of course, we thought Mrs. Hickey was having games. But Mrs. Hickey took our money and never gave us a lolly that day. She said that we were very, very naughty girls. So that was one woman I still remember. But she had a son, and he used to have a stick, and he put it right into the fire, stick of wood into the wood stove, and he put a chair there, and he'd sit next to it reading comics. And every time that the wood would burn, he'd push the stick in further. It used to might burn there all day. He would never cut wood for his mother. But that was the days in John Dandy. I think I might finish now by Nell Johnson. That was that all.
Good.
Or was it too fast talking? I'm a fast talker.
Good.